You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hello, this is Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There, ladies, things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is family that loves you, doesn't judge you, because you're here learning, being smarter, and all that good stuff, and learning the big words, as it were. I'm still working on that, too. So anyway, be sure for the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss won the TikTokity, and facebook.com/Chris Voss. Today we have an amazing young man on the show. John W. Kennedy joins us. His book was out October 23rd, 2024. It is entitled 12 Simple Words, part of the 12 Simple Words Foundation series of books, I believe, that what he's talking about. And we'll get into it and what he does there and why he does it. And with John, he is a PhD. He has a insignia of DESA. We'll find out what that is too. It's a lifelong resident of Madison, New Jersey, and a proud 30th generation Madison High School Dodger, and a professional industrial mechanical engineer. He's also a business owner and a passionate advocate for manufacturing and STEM education, recognized as National Distinguished Eagle Scout, and as a leader in manufacturing STEM initiatives in New Jersey and the U.S. As an accomplished Eagle Scout, he's led and participated in various scouting activities. An athlete throughout his life, he enjoys skiing and biking. He values family mentorship and considering himself fortunate for the support of loved ones, including his son, Sean Michael, I should say. So welcome to the show. How are you, John?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you. Yeah. Being Madison Dodgers, probably my greatest accomplishment of all time.
Well, there you go. Well, it probably sounds like being a father too. So there you go.
And now a new grandfather.
Oh, grandfather too. Well, there you go. There's a new accolade to add to the list there on the resume. Now you got to do great grandfather. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe it will work.
Not making that.
Oh, come on, man. Come on. I had a great great grandmother alive one time. So, there's still time. We're living longer now. So there you go. Anyway, give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs to get to know you better?
Well, the social media I do most of all is LinkedIn. I've been on that from day one, and that's certainly, but also 12simplewords.com, which is the book title, and it supports what we're trying to accomplish through the Team Eagle Foundation.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your book?
Well, I was a Boy Scout at age 11. Really got a lot out of the program. Anybody that's a Boy Scout had to learn the Scout law. And it's 12 words. And, we all said it like one word, like supercalifragilistic, because that's how we learned them. And I had a scout leader, Dennis Spencer, who said, slow the hell down. Listen to the words. And he taught me to do that. And over the years, being a scout leader, being an Eagle Scout dad with my son, Sean, with being involved for so long, really got into it. And I realized how impactful these 12 words were to me, and probably to millions of other kids that friggin' didn't figure it out until they were about the same age as me.
Yeah. So what are the 12 words? I was a Boy Scout. I never got to be an Eagle Scout. I flunked it. Everything when I was young. There's probably reasons for that, but that's another show. And a whole psychological therapy session that will buy someone a yacht. But tell us what the 12 words are.
Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And that's a slow version of it, Chris.
Yeah.
And
I always struggle with the clean part. I bathe like every other day. So
Well, you're funny. My son Sean, he wrote about that's the word he picked to write about
oh really?
with clean because he said, I know that I'm messy with a lot of things, but in the end, I'll figure it out and be organized and so on. And well,
Yeah.
you get what you get. Sometimes we can't all be perfect. And
Well, you just do what I do. You just hire a maid. That fixes everything for you.
well,
Yeah. I can't afford being married. I can't afford the divorces, so I never got married. So I just hire maids. Uh, I've saved about $2 million for my first divorce, so I'm just waiting until I get enough money for the divorce, and then I'll get married. Anyway, guys, I think there should be divorce insurance, but that's a joke I stole from some comedian. Anyway, so you're trying to bring back these 12 simple words into our culture, our society. Is that maybe the goal of what you're trying to accomplish with the book?
well, a little bit of that. I had been wanting to write this for a long time, and I started trying to write it as a business book.
Huh?
If you followed these 12 words, you could be successful. And it never really came together. And then finally, a couple years ago, I decided to look at it a different way. And I just looked at it, how they impacted me. But also in the book, there's what I call other voices, where I grab people from all walks of life. And I said, pick a word, write about it. Why is it important to you? And so that, self-help books, I loved the 1 Minute Manager books when I was younger because you could read them. I call them bathroom books because, take you about a week and you're done. But it just was applicable to what, what's going on. And if these words meant something to me, did they mean something to somebody else?
Oh.
And that was important to me. And what trying to do is remind people that we got to talk. You don't have to agree all the time, and there's nothing wrong with arguing or telling somebody you don't believe what they say is right. But instead of things, we get to a point where we do silly things like cancel people. Chris, if you don't say the words that I want, I'm going to cancel you. What value does that have in the long run? Absolutely not, because Chris doesn't care. And at the end, nobody talked about the problems that we were facing.
There you go. That's one idea. And so you had different people write the different chapters of the book on each of the different 12 items?
No, I wrote my take on all 12 words.
Okay.
And then at the end, I had some other voices, some people that would add a blurb about the road. And then I also found some things like Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. He's an Eagle Scout, and he had written a piece. Jimmy Buffett,
really?
Believe it or not, Jimmy Buffett was a scout, not an Eagle, but in one of his books, he wrote about being prepared and being part of. And then John Wayne had written when he was near death, he gave a speech about the 12 words and how important they were. So, as I said, what I wanted to do is give people a variety. Yeah, I want you to hear what I have to say, but self-help, I have a hard time saying what the book's about. People say, what is it, a self-help book? And it's like, well, yeah, sort of, but not. Because I loved playing baseball. I was a good baseball player, high school, college, but I'm 5'7". There's a great book written by Ted Williams called The Science of Hitting, but he was like 6'4", and he had 20/10 eyesight. I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't know anymore. No.
So, while the book was good for me, I had to pick and choose what applied. So I wanted people to have in one book the ability to hear what John has to say, but also hear what this former major in the U.S. Air Force has to say.
There you go. Well, Warren Buffett, or not Warren Buffett, that's the billionaire, but the other Buffett that you mentioned earlier, the reason he never got his Eagle his Eagle Scout merit badge was he was drinking too many margaritas while he was in the Boy Scouts. So that's what that
Yeah.
was.
Probably came at some time. I'm not sure at that age, but I can't judge.
It's a secret. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful man, and he's in hopefully wherever he's at, he's enjoying a lot of margaritas for free, hangover free. That is, that would be heaven. Hangover, no hangovers. So there you go. So a lot of these aspects that you espouse of the 12 things, I remember going through those as a Boy Scout, and I think they shape me. I think they're part of a subconscious mantra that I have in going through life. I try to strive to those values. Do you think we need more of those values in this world where, trust, honesty? I mean, we live in this world, especially with social media, where, everything is a lie. Like people just, they just social media is a complete fakery many times of who people really are. It's the highlight reel, really, most times. It's not, it's no one ever posts that they're at the pawn shop or the methadone clinic or they're at the herpes clinic. No one ever posts that on social media. Look, I'm down pawning my shit because I'm broke. It's always, look, I'm standing next to a Ferrari that isn't mine that I found parked in a parking lot, but I'm pretending like it's mine, or I got the owner to let me sit in it. That's sort of silliness going on. A lot of deception. We see this with AI now. I see a lot of it in dating. I see this catfishing where people are using AI now, photos. And then when you meet them in person, you just about leap out of your shoes. You're just like, holy shit, who the hell are you? And so, integrity, a lot of the different aspects of those 12 things, it might be good for our society to turn to some of those aspects.
Well, yeah, I think that's true, because I don't think we hold a lot of this fear, and we sort of make up stuff to give us excuses to get around something. I'm always, I write in the book, because my biggest hero is my mother. I don't know how she kept things going. My dad died suddenly when I was a teen. How she kept our house, how she kept food I have no idea. But she had the most common sense way of looking at things. Every day it was things like, make a positive difference today. And then when you came home, she'd sit you down and say, okay, what was the positive difference? She wanted to know. She wanted to dig a little bit and find out that. And I was a fairly active child going to a Catholic school with nuns. And some days there wasn't a lot of positives to bring home. But yet, somehow she would drag something out, and it drilled home the fact that we've got to be able to not only talk about this stuff, because everybody tells you what the right thing is to say. We all can tell you what the right thing is, but how do you act it? How do you do it? And I think that's what's lost, is that we're not, we're okay with, people, as long as they're our guy, we're okay with them lying to us or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that should change. How do you change it? I don't know, Chris. That you got a great podcast. You could probably reach a hell of a lot more than I can.
Well, we try to reach out to the people that want to do better, but they have to want to do it better. I mean, what you're talking about in your book is individual aspects of your personal character, and this is something you have to establish. This is something you have to monitor. This is something you have to engage in and work at every day. Am I being, ethical, have integrity? Am I being honest? I mean, trustworthy, and kind of it starts with yourself. A lot of these aspects that they teach in Boy Scouts, start with themselves. Am I being honest with myself? One of the things that we see a lot of people doing in this world, and, I'm guilty of it too as a human, where we can self-delude each other, or, or not each other, but we can self-delude ourselves into believing our own bullshit. Sometimes it's one thing I learned as a CEO, never buy your own bullshit. Uh, when you start believing your own bullshit, I mean, it's one thing to bullshit everybody else. But when you start believing your own bullshit, that kind of it tells you where you're at. And so being honest with yourself, being integrable with yourself, it's not so much about it is about so much with others, but you have to start with yourself first. Having integrity with yourself. Your brain listens to you when you ask it to do stuff, or when you go, hey, I have a goal, I want to accomplish it. If you've established in your brain and your body that what you say is gospel and you will do it, then it goes, okay, he's serious this time, right? But if you're just always full of shit, you're always just making goals, you never follow through, your body, when your brain, you tell your brain, hey, I want to do this goal or achieve this thing or start a new company or business, whatever your thing is. And it goes, yeah, you always talk and you never do the walk, you never do the work. So you're just full of shit. So we're just going to let you just keep deluding yourself and yada, yada, yada. So yeah, a lot of these aspects are very personal. And I think we used to have that in our society, at least where we operate with a modicum of at least the golden rule: do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. I'm an atheist, but Jesus talked about that. There's often things where I'd be like, what would Jesus do? Even though I don't believe in him. Some of these aspects that they write about in the Bible and other tomes of religion, which really are just self-help positive manuals. They're good. They're good for us. The reason they're kind of been around forever and everyone follows them is because, being good to each other is a wise investment, because otherwise then you just have anarchy and marauders and everyone's stealing from everybody. And, it's kind of like 2025 right now.
Yeah. But that's where we get to. You're right about that. I mean, when I ran my companies, and you start to learn something different about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You look at yourself a little bit differently, and again, going back to my mom, she said, she used to drive it into me. You control one person on earth, one person.
Mm-hmm.
Control that person first,
Yeah.
and. She was right. And it's what my wife and I told my son, about, same thing. And now he's got a little boy, Flynn Tatum. And I would hope that he's going to say the same thing to him, because that's the reality of it. You got to start with yourself, or the rest of it is BS. Yeah, I remember, going and listen when I was in high school, listen to this doctor tell us about smoking and how bad it was, and then watching him getting into his car in the parking lot and light up a cigarette. And I said, well, but it's a silly example, but you know what?
I think it's a good example.
But there's so many examples like that, of people. When you listen to what's going on, they're not going to, if you love that person, whether it's political, athletic, whatever it is, no matter what they do, you can make an excuse for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you hate that person, no matter what they do, you're going to find fault in it. And that's, at the end of the day, what good does that do any of us?
That's true. I mean, we're all imperfect beings, really, when it comes down to it. Some more than others. I've been on Twitter.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't go on Twitter.
You and me. I keep my head down. But there you go. Tell us about your life. How did you grow up? How were you raised? What were some of your influences and things you overcame as you were growing up and becoming who you were? How did you get into starting your own businesses and things of that nature? Give us your life story, damn it.
Well, I'll tell you what I can of it. As I said, Madison, New Jersey, good little town, and it was much more blue collar when I grew up with it. I'm still here, and it's much more white collar. But, my dad was a electrical and gas inspector, and we didn't have a lot of money. My mom was a checker at the local A&P. So, we did everything on the house. So one of the things that I always say to people is that, my dad had a weird rule, man. He said you could take anything apart, but you had to put it back together, and it had to work. And I'd like to say we batted 1,000 on that one, but we didn't. But it was a great learning experience for somebody that wanted to be an engineer, because if it didn't work, usually my
Oh.
dad would sit down and, okay, this is what you did wrong. This is why it didn't come through. But if he flipped the book at me, on Friday afternoon and said, read chapter 5, and I opened it and it said roofing, I knew what we were doing that week.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
there was a lot of good to that. Unfortunately, an aneurysm took him, really
Well, that's
quickly.
unfortunate.
Yeah, he was a decent guy. He was out there with scouts and little league, and my mom was a great lady. And I said, I have no idea how she kept things together. I have no idea, because
There
she
you
was
go.
a checker at the local A&P. She had
Oh, really?
nothing.
Wow.
But yet we didn't have food, but yet we'd go out pulling a wagon in our neighborhood asking for food for the homeless.
Really? Wow.
And so those are the things that tied together. And it may sound like hyperbole, but I always say that Boy Scouts helped save me, because two of my scout masters, my mom and a coach, if it wasn't for them after Dad died, it was easy to go to the dark side.
Yeah.
So these things, they were able to, pick me up when I was down, kick me in the butt when I needed it. And, that drove me to things like wanting to start a business like yourself. I mean, how do you get to that point? How do you start a podcast, for God's sakes?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Well, you're doing pretty good at it, but but that's the
I'm
point.
a hack after 16 years. So
Yeah.
I think by year 20 we might get it down.
Well, but that's a goal, right?
Wait, we're supposed to have a goal of that?
Well,
we're just kind of fumbling around in the dark over here, trying to be like, where's the mic at?
I did some reading about you, so you've had some goals and done some good stuff. So
a couple things. There you go. And so how did you start your first business? And it sounds like maybe that shaped in with some of the aspects you talk in the book.
Well, we wanted to, I got into the ability to buy into a manufacturing company, and was able to do that. And then with a couple of close friends and my bride, we started an engineering company and expanded it and grew on these things. Honestly, Chris, it was because I thought I had some really good ideas in my head, but the only way you can prove them is going out and do it.
Nah.
And, there were times when I said, well, that was a dumb one, but you learn that.
You learn.
And you learn it quick when the money's coming out of your pocket.
That's true. It's always funny how well you learn stuff when you can feel failure.
Yeah. So
I don't want to do that one again.
Exactly.
That was painful.
The thing that cost you money, you say, well, let's learn a lesson there. So I got to be involved with the things I love doing, engineering and manufacturing, and it's what shaped my career, but also my life, because owning a small business, even though we got up into triple figures of people, it's still more of a family business. And you still, I remember when my wife came to me and said, we got 63 kids in college. And I said, we got one kid. What the hell are you talking about? And she said, no, all of our employees, we got 63 people in college.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a jolt.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden it was, oh man,
you're responsible. I've had triple digit employees, man. You lose some sleep at night because you're like, if I make a bad decision, I hurt a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, exactly. And but it taught you some really good lessons. And to be honest with you, I'm glad I had these freaking 12 words to fall back on, because there were times when, thinking about, stuff weighed more heavily than I wanted them to.
Yeah, I mean, it can kind of feel arduous. I mean, one of the problems with this in business, and a lot of people don't realize this, as you get more successful, you as you get more successful, the high wire goes up higher, so it becomes more challenging to you don't have the ability to fall, and sometimes the view from there can be kind of scary a little bit because you're like, this is pretty high up here. Things can go bad, and there it is. But espousing those 12 attributes, I'd forgotten about them, and I should have them mounted on the wall. I should find a place in here I can mount them on the wall, because we really need a return to that, and it needs to be personal values. I mean, is self-accountability one of the 12 on there, or is there a variation of it?
It's not, but when you talk about it, as I came to write about each word, Chris, I found the weave into the other parts of me, whether that was integrity or whatever else, because when you looked at the words and you applied them to yourself, even reverent, you talk about, being an atheist and so on, and I was raised a Catholic and, sort of moved away from all structured religion. I do believe that there's a God, and that's, but when I wrote about reverend, I wasn't talking about religion, because to me, the word didn't apply there. And so, whereas other people, other voices spoke totally of their belief. And so it's where the journey takes us. I think that that's part of it. When you read these words as an 11-year-old boy, it starts out, a scout is.
A scout is.
So you start sitting there and you're saying, I'm an 11-year-old kid, and they think that I'm a trustworthy, loyal, helpful.
There's a lot of boots to fill here, man. I'm just 10.
You sit there and say, well, geez. And then after a while, you feel pretty good about it, because you say, well, that they must think I'm okay. But as you get older and you go through the program, and I became an Eagle, and I worked with 252 Eagle Scouts as a mentor. You started to see how these words applied, and by taking them and just using them instead of all this other BS, instead of all this other, first thing we do is we hate you, you're Hitler, you're this, you're that. Listen to somebody before you speak about something. I don't even know what half these terms mean anymore. Constitutional crisis. There was somebody speaking about a constitutional crisis, and they were talking about the separation of church and state. And separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution.
It's not.
No, it's actually a letter written by Thomas Jefferson that sort of got applied to it. But it just talks that the government should not create and demand that you join any religion. That's really what's in there. But I'm saying that this is a person who happened to be a senator speaking about a constitutional crisis and then misquoting the Constitution. Read the damn thing. Before you speak about it, read the damn thing.
Yeah. It is in the First Amendment Establishment Clause, though. So that makes it part of the Constitution. So it is not in the original U.S. Constitution.
Yeah.
In the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion,
right,
or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So it actually gives regulation to religion, but it also gives them the free exercise clause, which means government cannot prohibit the free exercise of religion, like they do in places like name any dictator, Stalin, Russia, et cetera, et cetera. They have the state appointed religion there, and part of the oligarchy, but yeah.
Well, and they were all leaving King George, where they were the Church of England. So, but you said you ask questions, argue a little bit, talk about things, figure stuff out. How'd you become a better business person? How did Chris Voss become the podcaster you are? Yeah, you joke around, but obviously you've learned a hell of a lot what works and what doesn't.
I hope I have. Because if there's more, man, I'm patience.
Well, come on, you got 4 more years to get to 20. So you
Thanks. My back hurts now. I got to take a nap. Uh, so yeah, there you go. But yeah, these aspects, you mentioned the reverent one of the 12 points of the Scout Law. I mean, that can apply to spirituality. I utilize spirituality. Every Sunday I call it my day of gratitude, my great day of kind of spiritual spending time with me, appreciating my family, being grateful for what I have. And I call it gratitude for gratefulness day. And it's also a day where I work through my archives. I take a look at my files, back them up, and look through my photos and organize my life and try and get my head around the week coming up. And so spirituality is a big part of that. I wish that one of the 12 laws was self-accountability, but I can't have everything, Chris. It's not your world. You just live in it. But I remember, when we used to say these 12 points, didn't we used to hold up our hand and it was like an oath? We would hold up the Scout. I don't even remember. Was the Scout 2 fingers or
3 fingers?
3 fingers.
Cub Scouts was 2.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Because that was Bobcat ears.
Yeah, I remember. I know it was in the Boy Scout or the Cub Scouts too, growing up.
Yeah.
There you go. So these points are important, and I mean, even if I don't really, I find people in the world are untrustworthy, so I'm not sure I'm going to fully trust them. That's great. Focus on yourself first. Build the better machine. We live in this victimhood world where we blame everybody for everything. I think this is some of what you're getting at and what you're talking about. And instead of trying to make each of ourselves on our own the best people we possibly can and go and take that into the world, we're too busy pointing fingers at the people and being like, well, you should be better. And then kind of like the example you said of the guy who goes and smokes in the car, we've all had that, sometimes our parents are like, you don't lie to people. And then you catch your parents lying. You're like, aha, you're full of shit, as George Carlin would say. But, there's the nature of human beings is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, is that a word? In its nature. And, we're fallible as human beings. We don't make mistakes. But all the more important, why we should try and build the best quality machine. And I remember taking those oaths and principles, and I remember, like you say, thinking they're like, this is a lot to put on me, man. I'm just like trying to, but Cub Scouts had prepared us for some of it, and you looked up to Eagle Scouts, you looked up to Boy Scouts, and we kind of need more of that again. Or return to that. We just had a gentleman on the show earlier today who was talking about giving back. He's a very wealthy gentleman, let's put it that way. I'm not sure if he's a billionaire, but he's a very wealthy, successful man, and he still espouses from an early age. His parents taught him to devote himself to charity, to help other people. He worked with Mother Teresa at one point in his youth, and this was in an age where, you remember the Peace Corps, where people would do the Peace Corps, and that used to be a thing. People would go out and learn about the world doing Peace Corps. They would learn how to serve and give. John F. Kennedy, kind of maybe your namesake, talked about, what can you do for your country? Bobby Kennedy, Ripples of Hope speech and other speeches talked about the Peace Corps and, what we need to do to help other people be better and help ourselves be better as well. And he held up a good mirror to that. So a lot of these aspects, are something we really need to turn to in this life, because it just seems like it's just bullshitville these days with everybody. I mean, you look at Instagram, and like I said, it's a highlight rule. Then you meet people in person, and they're just certainly never the people that profess to be online. Maybe I don't. Maybe I profess to be online a great person. I'm just an idiot. Wait, I am. But I think everyone online has figured that out by now. So there you go.
Well, yeah, but you're right about that. But by the way, I was named after 2 heroes, but not that particular hero. I was named after William John Sr., my father, and my older brother, William John Jr., who named me.
Wow.
Well, it always drove me crazy that I'm John William, because I'm like, geez, but looking back now that both of them are gone, I'm glad that they that Billy put my name that way. But, it's the simple stuff that we just don't do. And think about it. I look around living in the same town, people can't help an older person shovel their driveway, can't, if it's raining, the lady down the street walking up with, bags of groceries and nobody stops, and it just, and I read actually it was in USA Today where they said that like almost 80% of us feel that we've done our charitable duties when we've given away money. And certainly money's important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that helps all of these programs run.
Mm-hmm.
But until you've gone to a Special Olympics meet and hugged a kid that, ran his first 100-yard dash in his life, you find that it's the action that has to happen that pays off dividends. And it not just to the kid or to the other person, it pays off to you too.
Yeah. I wish I could remember the quote from our prior guest, but he talked about basically how when you give, and I think it's a quote from a famous writer, but when you give, you don't lose anything. That's you're gaining something when you give. If you die with a bunch of shit, like you've lost. But if you give and contribute to the world and try to make the world a better place every day that you're in it, so that when you leave, it's a better place, you haven't lost anything. If you've given money, you haven't lost money. If you've given your time, effort, love, and care, you haven't lost any of that. You've actually built a higher character of a person and contributed to the world in a way that's going to add value. And you don't know. I mean, that person you help one day, they could go on to come up with some life-changing, cancer-saving thing, or maybe they just make the better world a better world in their own place. We had Tim Shriver on the show a couple of years ago during COVID. He wrote the book The Call to Unite, and I think he helped found it or helped oversee. I think the Kennedys did help start Special Olympics. And
yes,
he's overseen that for a lot of years.
Yeah, Ethel Kennedy started it.
Yeah, I think that was his mom.
Yeah.
Him and Maria Shriver's mom. But we had Tim on. We talked about Bobby and John, yourself, I guess. We were talking about you.
Thanks.
That bullet, his wound is really healed up nicely. There you go. You've done well.
Still sore.
Still sore. So sorry to my friends in the Kennedy family too soon. There you go. But any final thoughts as we go out on what you want people to do? Give them the pitch out on where they can pick up the book, any .com, so they can get to know you better. Well,
I mean, the book you can get. I've been lucky. I've been learning this business by the seat of my pants. Book Baby was my original publisher. They're a good publisher. I've been working very closely with Reading Glass Book and Writers Branding, and that's a veteran-owned company. In fact, coming up, they're going to open their 4th bookstore in New Jersey, coming up on September 5th at Quaker Bridge Mall, which is kind of cool. I love to see small businesses take off. And Books to Life has helped me set up this tonight, which I greatly appreciated. Every nickel that we earn for the book goes to Team Eagle Foundation. It's a foundation that a couple of us started in 2010 for mentoring for older youth, 15 to 20. And then we ran programs every summer at camps, used a lot of scout camps. It wasn't a scout program, but scouting certainly supported us by giving us a good deal on their camps. And then COVID hit, and that blistered, that. So we sort of switched and started doing scholarships and grants. And again, you can find this out on 12simplewords.com. You can buy the book there. You can donate to Team Eagle Foundation. You can learn a little bit about me, but more importantly, you can learn a little bit about, some of the other voices that were involved. And, we blew past $1 million year or so ago, which really, that was kind of cool, because we started it as almost as a lark to try to figure something out, and to be able to do something with that and to give out that many scholarships, I mean, not incredibly wealthy, well off, I guess you'd have to say. Been very blessed to own a couple of businesses and sell them. But as my mother said, if you don't give back, you don't get any more.
That's true.
And she was serious. Trying to write a second book called 12 More Words. And I brought in a lot of the people that read the book suggested other words.
Oh, really?
So we've picked 12 more words, and I call it 12 more words, acting it forward, because I want to know what your action is on those words. Like action words. You pick a word, integrity. Well, okay, how do you show integrity? How do you teach other people about integrity?
How do you behave with integrity, right?
Right. So maybe I'll get Chris Voss to write something in that book, who knows?
It's an idea if I could ever find time. I can't even find time to brush my own teeth. So there's that.
Well, I don't want to hear about teeth, I mean, that gets a little. I'm a Jersey boy. You better watch. I mean, that could be true.
There you go. So thank you for coming on the show, John. We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I know that you've had some pretty phenomenal guests, and I appreciate being one of them.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we appreciate having you as well and sharing your message that can raise the awareness and level of integrity of our society if people just kind of follow those rules. There you go. So thanks so much for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. 12 Simple Words, part of the 12 Simple Words Foundation. Book 1 of 1. I imagine there'll be book 1 of 2 or book 2 of 2 coming out soon. So there you go. Out October 23rd, 2024. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on TikTokity, and all those crazy places in it. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.